The At Home Show.
Live from the Green Room Studios, from the spacious property of Bates Nursery and Garden Center, 3810 Whites Creek Pike, it's the At Home Show with Josh Cary and David Bates.
Hey, welcome in, everybody. Just settle down, settle down, settle down. I know it's a party. It's a Saturday morning party. The first one, the first live broadcast of the 25th year of the At Home Show, David Bates. What do you think about that stuff?
Well, Josh, I think it's unexpected. As I told our friend Devin O'Day yesterday.
Devon, how is she? The divine
She
Devin.
is doing really well, and I thoroughly enjoy being on her program, and thanks to her for giving me the opportunity to be on and kind of talk about what we do here a little bit, and also to talk about some gardening things. So it was very nice, and I'm looking forward to being back on there again. So great to see everybody today. We're actually live this morning.
Yes.
We're not dealing with technical difficulties so far, but we've I think we have we've gotten through it the very best we could. You know, life is full of little issues along the way.
Like what?
And, well, like week before last, we were NES, and this is no discredit to them. I'm not getting down on them.
You'll save that for me.
We
to
said,
do, right?
yes, it's okay to dig here, and they dug here, and they cut through our main cable that goes to the green room. So when you do that, the lack of power situation comes in.
It's hard to yell that loud so everybody can hear us. I mean, it really gets, it's tough on the voice.
Well, Tyler came to the rescue.
Yes, he did.
And he put together a wonderful episode last week. So thank you, Tyler. Appreciate that. And
you're welcome.
That gave us
I did it for everybody.
It gave us the opportunity to kind of regroup and
get the power.
See where we are. So, life is full of little problems. It's not about the things that happen. It's how you deal with them. And speaking of dealing with things, let's deal with the weather.
Okay.
See what the weather's got in store
to.
for us. So, of course, today is Saturday, the 12th of February. And you know what that means? Valentine's Day is just
day after tomorrow.
So do not forget. Just saying, don't forget. Today is going to be a mostly cloudy day. 38 degrees for the high temperature, and it's going to be chilly tonight as those clouds move out later on. 19 for the overnight low. Then we get a nice run of sunshine as the temperatures begin to moderate through the middle of the week. And, of course, the deeper into the end of winter we get, the more consistent these temperatures go. 43 Sunday, 52 Monday, 64 on Tuesday, and beautiful sunshine. 66 on Wednesday, and clouds again start to roll in after the morning hours and rain by late afternoon. Looks like a rain event on Thursday. All total could be 1.25 inches, maybe 1.5 inches of rain. You don't know. Friday, things cool back down again, but the sun does return, and hopefully by next Saturday morning, we're looking at sunshine and 54 degrees for the high next weekend. But for today, it currently is 34 degrees, so it's jacket weather, but it's not gale force winds like we were feeling throughout the late morning yesterday. And so I want to go directly to Austin and talk about what you were doing.
Speaking of Austin.
Yes, I want to go right to Austin and talk to him about what he was doing when the winds picked up yesterday.
Well, good morning. First off, yesterday we were doing plastic. So this past week we've got 3 new greenhouses that have been built. And it's mine and the guys' task to get some plastic over the roof. So we did that a couple days ago when there was minimal wind. And then yesterday we have at the end of our building where the hoops finish, we have a little lean-to structure that we put up, and we are tasked with covering that. And it's a little bit tricky to do. And yesterday morning it was fairly calm, and we got some of it done. And then the winds picked up, and it got to be, like 15, 20 mile an hour constant winds throughout the day. So I had to call it off. No more plastic yesterday, but we will get it done next week. And we'll have that covered for our new annual greenhouse. And it won't be long. We're going to have annuals in that greenhouse and pretty flowers all over the place.
You're going to do that every year?
No, we don't have to do that every year.
No.
It's
We have the annuals every year, though. Right?
We do have the annuals every year, of
Oh,
course.
okay.
I mean, you can't not have annuals and vegetables. I mean, my God.
It is going to be amazing, folks. If you see, I'm going to be privileged to watch this project from start to finish on that new greenhouse, and it is massive, guys.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
It's amazing how much larger it feels when the actual square footage of floor space has not changed. But the additional headroom and available light is going to really make a huge difference, not only for the plants that need the light, but also for the shopping experience for everyone. So we're looking forward to having everyone enjoy that as we go through the spring season. And we've got currently a redo of our shade structure, which is going on. So hopefully we have that done in the next couple of weeks.
That looks like it's going to be quite an expansion, though.
It's quite. We're going to enlarge that area. So there's always something going on at Bates Nursery. We can't stand still, and we thank our good friends over at Crosland Builder Supply for supplying us materials to help us keep our projects rolling.
You call, we haul, we y'all. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just one of those things. But David, you mentioned Austin on the other side of the room over there. Who did you forget on the other side of the room?
Well, I did not forget.
Yes,
Caroline.
you did.
No, he could never forget.
No.
Cary, Gant, and we were
Good
always
morning.
evidence of Cary being there when you see all the wonderful tropical plants that are in and around this morning. And of course, that's the area that she deals with most specifically. Not that she doesn't pretty much deal with everything, but and good morning, Caroline.
Good morning.
I hope you're well today.
Doing great.
Excellent. Excellent. Good. Okay. Maybe she needs to work on that coffee a little more. She'll come around.
We've got her
maybe
on a
she's not
slight time delay.
Yeah, that's what it is. Uh-huh.
That's okay. It's all good. So anyway, we welcome everyone in today. And we did not have a chance to discuss this, Cary, but I expect that we have some questions out there from viewers
we do.
in the queue.
Are we ready for some?
We are.
Okay.
Unless there's some other business that you guys know we need to attend, let's do that.
I mean, there's always business, but let's get some questions in first. We'll start off strong. Best privacy bushes. Go.
You know, I did a video
Go.
about this.
We have a webinar.
We do have a webinar
It's
about
our,
this.
Yes.
it's our second most rated or watched webinar. It's green screens.
I did that
Nice.
one.
And
did
how
it.
do you find that webinar, Tyler?
You go to the Bates Nursery YouTube page. It's there. Or you can go to batesnursery.com, click on blogs, and it's under the Botanical Bootcamp webinar archive on the website.
Which,
Wonderful.
which directs you back to YouTube. So it's just quicker if you go to the Bates Nursery YouTube channel.
And
to be able
subscribe,
to
by the way. You
Subscribe. That way you get notifications when we update new things. So tell us, Austin, so we don't have to go watch it immediately.
If we're doing a show, we'll watch it later.
What did you share with us in that video?
I think mainly what I touched on was kind of, I've dealt with all evergreens, first off. When people say screens, they typically want them to stay green through the winter. And then I went to kind of what size you want to go to. So do you want a privacy screen that's 6 to 10 feet tall? Or do you want something that's more 15 to 20 feet tall? Or would you prefer something 30 feet tall and maybe even upward? So do you like plants that are thin? Do you like plants that are wide? There's all sorts that we can use to create what you want. And some common ones, I guess some of the most common ones going to be hollies. Our best-selling screen is probably Green Giant Arborvitae, which is a larger growing screening plant that grows fast, and it has less disease issues than Leland Cypress, which is another very common one, and it's totally fine to use Leland Cypress as a large growing hedge, not even hedge, screen, a large growing tree screen, but they have a little bit more disease issues than Green Giant does, so that's something that I mentioned.
Yeah, I really think, and of course we do. You can get a Leland Cypress from us, but because of the gall issue that they can get, also they are particularly less adept at dealing with drought conditions. And if you invest in planting a screen of them, they may all do well for a number of years, and then in August some year when you're gone on vacation, it gets just a little too dry, and then you'll see 2 or 3 start to die off, and that becomes problematic years into it, particularly because all of a sudden you've got these massive plants growing in with a dead spot in there, and there's no way to match it other than transplanting one of the plants off of the end into the middle, and that's expensive and labor intensive. So Green Giant really is a much better choice for that. Also, you mentioned other conifers. If Green Giant is the most widely used, because they do get quite large, Emerald Arborvitae is easily the number 2 choice. Probably in terms of numbers of plants we sell, it's actually the number 1 because they don't get so big. They'll only get 12 to 14 feet in height, and they don't get so wide. So if you have a limited area and you don't need something quite as tall, that's an excellent choice, and many choose that. So talk about that for a moment.
Yeah, a lot of times Emerald Green's the the cousin of Green Giant, if you will, and like you said, it stays thinner. So a lot of people use this you can certainly use it as a screen. It's just that it stays thin, so you're going to need a lot more plant material to actually create, say, a green wall if you really want to achieve that. Other than that, it's very, very commonly used. I know we talk about all the tall skinnies in Nashville now, so almost all these tall skinnies have tall skinny plants on the corners. That's where they're used a lot. So we'll sell 2 at a time, 4 at a time. We use it for that application a lot. So that's another one. It's another one, though, that like David was talking about earlier, in this periods of drought in the summer, especially if you plant them in the spring, you really need to watch those through the summer month. If we have any drought at all, they're not very deep rooters. That's kind of their thing. They stick to the surface a little bit. So they're not reaching down to find their own water very well. So even for the first couple, even 2 to 3 seasons, you kind of have to watch Emerald Green and make sure they don't dry out during the summertime. But other than that, it's an excellent plant to frame in homes, frame in an entranceway or a walkway you can line them with. It's a nice clean green look, and the green goes, stays leafed all the way to the ground, is why I think people like them so much, is that they really stay green from top to bottom without many issues. Now, do keep an eye on the bagworm scenario if you're unfamiliar with bagworms.
Spider mites.
And spider mites as well. So for the first few seasons, like I said, keep an eye on them. But other than that, it's a very good plant, and it's our number 1 selling plant of this whole nursery is Emerald Green Arborvitae.
Awesome.
And one of the things that I like to encourage people to do when you have those kinds of newly established plantings is develop what I call the buddy system, where that you have friends who perhaps live nearby. Make sure that you coordinate your vacation so that they're not at the same time, so that when you're away, they can water the plants that need extra attention at your house, and when they're away, you can water their plants. So,
But if you're really good friends, you go on vacation together, don't you?
Yeah, then you get home and both sides are doing.
Well, then everybody starts all over again.
Or maybe you just don't go in August, which is
that's
perhaps another angle on that. So
Now, David, there is another thing that you have said through the years, and since we're in our 25th year now, with the Green Giants, if you're out in an area that can support it, is that you like them offset. You don't like them in the straight military type of row. Yeah,
well, it's not always possible to do that,
Right.
particularly when you're using an Emerald Arborvitae. A lot of times that choice is being made due to the lack of width that's
Right.
available. So those are frequently planted 4 feet on center, and Austin already touched on the fact that they can be quite expensive because they don't get so wide, which means you have to plant more of them to get that green wall look to them. So 4 feet on center is about right. You can go out to 5. It's going to take them a couple of years longer to fully grow together. So offset, I think, is really better if you have the much larger Green Giant Arborvitae.
Right. That's
You've
the
got
one.
room to work with, and it makes a much more attractive. We do have a planting on the northern property line of the nursery that of Green Giants that is a straight line. Now, we didn't have any choice. There just wasn't room to do more than that. But we really wanted to be able to create a green wall effect, and we're probably only about maybe 2 years away from that happening. They really have put on some growth in the last couple of years. They don't call them Green Giant for nothing. They can get to be 40 to 60 feet in height ultimately if they're in the right growing conditions.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's big.
That is a big tree.
That's a big old tree right there.
So I think we got enough information covered on that one. So
and folks, again, use the mono thing, using a all green giants, or if you wanted to mix something with green giants or the Austin, what would you suggest is instead of all one type, what would you mix in there with them?
For me, it's deciduous flowering trees. Just say, for example, crepe myrtle. Spacing 3 crepe myrtles, evenly along the what you want to screen out as flowering trees to kind of break up the evergreen eye there. And there's a number of trees you can do this with. Yoshino cherry comes to mind, dogwood, redbud. Any of those, anything to just break it up a little bit, and you can use them at the ends. I like to do 3s of plants. So like I said, spacing 3 deciduous flowering trees out first, and then planting your evergreens in between those trees, I think creates a nice little scene. And then as the green giants get bigger, you can even extend the bed out in front and say put white blooming hydrangeas out in front of them. Creates really a nice scene. As the years go on, you don't have to do this all at once. Like we were saying, these projects get expensive, so letting them grow a few years and then saying, hey, they're big enough now to where I can get some plants out in front of them and really create a whole new scene.
Very good.
And one of the things that I think is most important, and we try to talk to folks about this a lot, and what we like to say here on the At Home Show is if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And if you want to have success in your gardening overall plan, you got to do that. You got to plan ahead. And while you might not be able to afford to go out there and do it all in one spend and get everything put in at one time, it is important to go ahead and plan for these spots. So I'm leaving this one out here because I'm going to put a crepe myrtle in this spot next year, or maybe in the fall or whenever. So having a plan overall in mind will save you money, and you will not have to spend extra effort on relocating things that are in the wrong spot. It really is a time well spent. So it's worth taking that bit of time and taking photographs, bringing them out to us here at Bates Nursery. And Austin and all the great horticulturalists out here can walk around with you, help you get that together. It doesn't have to be something that's a 4-color multi-page drawing. Sometimes you just need to have a guide to go by. It's very simple to sketch that on
and
paper.
Pencil and just sticks. This is what basic dimensions.
Pencil and paper still works. Well, let's go back to Caroline, and I think we covered that one pretty well. So
very thorough. All right, question number 2. We've already talked a little bit about this. When should I plant a limelight hydrangea for best chance at thriving?
Limelights, y'all, can be planted almost any time of the year. I would avoid the dead of the summer just because hydrangeas tend to wilt on you. They can get a little thirsty, so I'd avoid the summer months. But anything for the most part deciduous that has no leaves right now, it's typically a good time to plant them. So limelights are extremely hardy plants. It's funny. Cary talked to me about this yesterday. You relocated some limelights.
3 giant ones.
And they were hard to dig.
Took me hours to get them out of the ground.
But you did it. When did you do this? It wasn't that long. It was like last fall.
Yeah, it was fall. It was cold when I did it.
Yeah.
So.
But then you said the other day you came out and you tugged on them and they had already kind of latched in.
All anchored in.
Yeah. So that goes to show you, even when they're dormant, the roots are still active down there and they're latching into that ground. So right now is an excellent time to plant limelight. Go ahead and get them in, get them growing, and that way you'll enjoy their show this late spring into summer when they bloom.
Yeah, and the transplanting reference is really key at this time of year. While spring is rapidly approaching, it's important to remember if you're going to transplant something, say you didn't quite plan with enough foresight, or something got bigger than you realized, and you need to move it further away from the house or to a different locale altogether. You got to get that done right now, because we're quickly running out of time. A month from now it really is going to be too late to do those transplanting things. So, we'd like to tell you, if you know where you're going to go with it, dig the hole where it's going to first, and then dig it up, transplant it to the new spot, and most importantly, water it in immediately. You really want to get all those air pockets settled out of that root ball that is around it. So if you do that, your chances of survival and successful transplanting are near 100%.
Yeah, that 72 degrees that was in the south side of Nashville yesterday, that's an harbinger of a spring Harbinger. Harbinger of spring. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we're kind of showing a little bit of signs of spring. We
Yeah,
got some
buddy.
daffodils halfway up. I don't know, and
I've
around
seen
town
some
anyway.
blooming.
Really?
Yes.
I haven't seen
In
one bloom
Jolton
yet.
on my way to work yesterday.
Okay, well, Cary, I think you should pull a question out directed towards your area of expertise. I'm sure you have one.
Well, actually, we didn't get any today, but I
Oh,
can talk about what I have here in front of me.
oh yes, you
Well,
can.
you know what? We would like to hear about that because
are
there's
some
a lot
lovely
of beautiful.
tropicals.
There's a lot of beautiful things in the studio, and also up behind me and Tyler in the other corner, we've got a lot of nice tropicals around. So tell us what we've got.
Yeah, so we kind of went with a Valentine's Day theme over here on this side. So yeah, we're 2 days away from Valentine's Day, and I'd say the best gift to give, your loved one is something living that's not a puppy, so probably a houseplant. And we have some great little planters that are already mixed up. You see this cute little bunny. We got a little cat. And then I brought like an array of heart-shaped leaves. I know,
see.
it's so special. So I'm going to pull this little guy right in front. So this is a Philodendron micin, and you can kind of see in the light, it's got really velvety leaves. They're kind of nice to pet. They're super cute. They kind of have a rainbow look about them. If you hold them up to the light, there's a lot of red, a lot of green, yellow in it. So it's got some nice color. And then to its right, here we are. Austin, you can display it. Use those hands. We've got this Brazil philodendron. So you've got the nice heart-shaped leaves with some variegation. So it has a little bit of pop. I love these. I have, I think, one of each of all the philodendron that we have on the table right now, plus more. Okay, and now we're going to move on to a Hoya. This is Cary Hoya. It's a nice little heart shape. One fun, interesting, weird fact about these, how we get them in most of the time here at Bates Nursery, is they are not going to grow past this. It's going to look like that forever. You've had one for 2 years?
Yeah, maybe year and a half.
For a while.
Still looks like this.
There's not a perceivable change in it over the course of time.
There
No.
won't be. So these are just leaf propagations. There's no node on it. And because of that, with this specific plant, it's not going to push any new growth past this. But it's crazy because it has a strong root system. You could actually repot it into a bigger pot, but the plant itself is not going to get any larger. So if you're worried about space, you're not sure where that person's going to put the plant. Maybe they live in a smaller apartment or they have a ton of houseplants already. This would be a great option. Oh,
I'm
Austin's
amazed
showing
by
us
this.
the roots. Yep.
I'm amazed by
That
this.
is
Y'all.
a-
It's got roots, full root system, white, looking good, and it doesn't grow anymore. Horticulturally, I don't know what to think about this.
I think
It's
it drives you a little bit
baffling.
crazy.
It
yeah.
really it does drive me crazy. What I did the other day, y'all, I've talked about this before. When it comes to propagation, sometimes to get new roots or new shoots, you have to make breaks in something. There has to be some sort of break or wound, and that creates a response. So what I did the other day is I went down on soil level down here on either side of this little heart, and I just nicked it. I wounded it both sides with a knife. Just
You
clean-
wounded that heart.
I did right around soil level, and I pushed the soil close back to those wounds. And what I'm hoping for is a response. Don't know if I'm going to get it, but I'm at least trying because I
I'm
can't
interested
stand this
to
thing
see
sitting.
what
Yeah, I
Either
need to see
way-
some growth.
it's going to drive
Either
you
way,
crazy if it doesn't.
if it does do it, you're going to feel good. Otherwise, you're going to have a broken heart.
Oh, just in time for Valentine's Day. Oh, no.
Yeah. So.
Well, if you
anyway,
need to mend that heart, you could get yourself a really pretty orchid, not heart-shaped, but this one right here in front of me, this Oncinium Orchid, Paul's Pride is what it's called, which is my father's name, so maybe I should get him an orchid. It smells amazing. It's got these lovely burgundy and yellow blooms. And then this one in particular has a couple new bloom spikes. So if you're watching the show and you're
Really
like, wow,
gorgeous.
look at that
It's a
orchid,
beautiful plant.
come snag it. Yeah,
Now-
before I do.
Talk a little bit about orchids and the dirt and the stuff, or the lack of dirt that they run 'em, that you recommend for them.
Well, there's a couple. I mean, there's a lot of different kinds of orchids, and depending on the orchid, it needs specific soil, charcoal, bark, like this Phalaenopsis. If Austin, you want to slide that over, which has different needs than this Oncinium, which is right here. So in front of Austin, this Phalaenopsis, they like to be have kind of a chunky soil. So I use pine bark in mine, some charcoal, and then I put moss on the top. And now with the Oncinium, they like kind of more of a moist soil. So I mix more. I use the earth mix